Disclaimer, this video is our personal views and opinions. This is a monthly look at a brand, a release, and a collab that brings out the petty. We will discuss the history of a brand, product, and issues surrounding them to hopefully offer possible solution and ideas for a better makeup world. Save the vitriol. I hope you're doing fantastic. Today we're going to be starting a new series. It's called the Petty Betties. We've got, we're going to try once a month to kind of rack up our little annoyances that we have. Yeah, and then today's is going to be about indie brands and collabs. With me today is my partner in crime, and my other petty Betty is Teresa Mulhern. How you doing?
Hello. Hello, I am ready to be petty.
Excellent, me too. So I thought what we can do is one little more disclaimer to the beginning. If anybody here is watching this and you've loved these brands and you've had no problem with these brands, that's awesome. That's okay. We probably all don't have the same experience, but we're just having some fun here. It's just makeup, stuff that washes off, gets bad. It's what it is. So there we go. So that's my other little disclaimer. And yeah, so we've got our first little brand that we're being all petty about is Menagerie Cosmetics. As everybody knows, they did a collab with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner, who is absolutely fantastic and one of my favorite YouTubers. So just give a little history on the brand. They started on October in 2018. They used to be called Makeup Monsters. They're based out of Newman Lake, Washington, and all their products are inspired by wildlife, and their formulation and products are made in-house in the USA, are 100% talc-free, cruelty-free, and vegan. Everything is in small batches, no mass production, and it's a husband and wife that runs the company. And yeah, so that's a little bit about them. So Menagerie. So what do you think?
I have a lot of feelings on Menagerie. So obviously it was so amazing for Annette to get the collaboration with them. She is so talented and it made so much sense for her. Now, one of the things that I thought was really, really interesting was the limited number of units they actually made on the palette. Now, Annette has a big following, right? So I felt that proportionally to her following, the number of palettes that they were making for this limited edition thing didn't really make a lot of sense. So straight away it was hitting on this whole FOMO and everyone kind of rushing to potentially get this. Like there was a whole thing on the day that it launched. So I think if you are going to collaborate with somebody and you know like how many followers they have, you should probably invest a little bit more and maybe not have so few units.
Oh, totally.
That's just my feeling on that. The color story, beautiful. I think Annette did really, really well on that. But we both hit this particular problem, which was we both got so excited because on the day that it launched, we both managed to get it. And we were like, oh my God, it's happening. We're going to do it. And we were like, we're going to do a collab video. It's going to be so cool. But within a few days, it's like they just, it was almost like it was their first time doing anything. It was very weird. And this is a brand, like you said, that has been established since 2018. So you would expect for them to have had a lot more background or understanding of what they were doing. But they basically said, yeah, we can ship all the orders to everyone in the US, but anyone outside the US, no, we're canceling your order and we're refunding you. Now, part of my problem with that was myself, and I know you as well, emailed saying, please don't cancel our orders. We actually have people we could send them to in the US and we can sort it out from there. But there was blanketly no response. I didn't get any response on that. Now, their official stance is, oh, we'll try and get to you within 2 working days. That has not happened. They're actually, I will say their customer service is quite poor. And again, I don't think they've invested in that anywhere near enough given the demand of their products.
Totally.
The amount of people who've also said to me that they want to get, say, the Feral palette or the Flight Club palette, but they can't get it because it's never in stock. So to me, it seems a bit weird to have a brand and have it so that 90% or so of your products are just never there.
Oh, I've tried for over 2 years to get something. That was the thing. I've always wanted to try them. It's almost like with every single release and every single restock, they want that FOMO. They want that fear of missing out. They want everybody to get crazy. I remember us messaging and be like, oh, you're going to try? Let's try. Let's make this a challenge. Challenge accepted. We're not going to get this palette. And then you get this palette and you're just like, oh my God, this is like, we did it. We did it. We're one of the first 500 people to get this palette. This is fantastic. And it's like, I don't even think their excuse where they said that they had pallets coming back, it already said with the pre-order, it could take up to 10 days to ship it. And yet a couple days later, you're trying to tell me that you've shipped some out and that they're already coming back. Like, I already think that's shady. I'm just wondering, did they get any, like, why are you sending it? It's so limited. It should be just US first, like US based. I don't know. Did they get any kind of pressure not to send internationally, or at least for the first 500? Because it felt to me pretty quick that they all of a sudden were like, oh no, sorry, canceling it. Like, I was like, I'll pay courier. I'll do courier. At this point, I was so committed to getting this thing. It's like, that's fine. I'll pay $30 for FedEx, whatever. Throw other people's in. I can make it work, right? And if I'm still waiting for a response for my email. I'd never gotten any kind of response to that. So.
And from what I understood from their Instagram as well, we weren't the only ones who were doing that or saying this or saying something to that effect. And they were blanketly ignoring. Now, the terrible thing is we have now learned that with Menagerie, don't bother sending an email. What you actually have to do is go on to social media and tag them in that. Because eventually, when one of the things they had said was, for those outside of the US who have made the order, we will give you the essentially first refusal once we can get people back up and running. And they did. And I paid for that again. Can I also just say shipping is ridiculously expensive?
It's brutal.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we did that. And that was on the 17th. Now, I got an email then on the 23rd of June saying, oh, we're shipping it out today. And I was like, okay, you're waiting an entire week from when I paid. Yeah. Okay, now we're both massive fans of Lois Cosmetics. And we know this is a small brand run by one person, not a husband and wife, one person. And she does manage to get her orders out like within a day or two. So I kind of thought, oh, a week is a very long time. But look, whatever. I mean, particularly when you're spending $30 something on shipping, like, it was a lot. And never actually ended up getting it. I emailed them, they didn't respond. And I had to actually put it onto Instagram for them to take notice. And when they did eventually respond to me, they told me that I, the customer, should check with the postal service.
Which 9 times out of 10, if you contacted the postal service, they will tell you that you have to go back to the person that has sent it. I've rarely had it where it's been unless it's just, general tracking. Yes, I can check my tracking to see where it is by all means. But if I contact them, especially if it hasn't hit Canada yet, they have to do it. So that was, I'm lucky I got mine. So it did ship a few days after I paid for it, which I was shocked at because they said it's going to be at least 10 days. So I thought it'd be the 10 days. And when it shipped 3 or 4 days later, I was really excited. And then it came relatively quickly. So at least when they said they send it expedited, it was expedited. So 4 or 5 days later, I got it. And yes, it was in good shape, but all the pounds were crooked. So, I sent you that video and I was like, okay, is this just me? But, so if you have any kind of, if you like things like I do in a row and everything marked out, if I look at that thing closely, it's just like, but the quality itself is great. But would I pay $35 for a palette with $26 US shipping? And then you get the chance of duty. So I basically paid, once I added the lipstick this time. It was like over, I think it came to $120 Canadian altogether for that order, for literally a palette that I can hold in my hand and a lipstick. It's just like,
Yeah.
never
I
again.
spent for the palette and the lipstick and the shipping, it was, I think, the guts of $90 US.
Yeah.
I never got it in the end. They did thankfully eventually end up refunding me. So that was something, and they were also like, oh, well, hopefully it does turn up and you can still have it. And I'm like, I doubt it at this point, because there's been no update since the 27th of July.
Yeah.
So it was just, or no, it's the 27th of June, it hadn't updated since. So I was like, this is all, I'm quite disappointed with the customer service, and I feel quite bad for Annette as well, because her name ends up being kind of associated with this. Now, if anyone has watched Annette, you will just know she's very sincere, she's very genuine, very, very, very hardworking. And it just kind of sucks that this was her time in the sun, and there was just issue after issue after issue. So it just, I mean, like you're saying, like the quality is there, because I've had the lovely Brianna actually got me the Flight Club palette back in the time where they weren't shipping to anywhere outside of the US, because there was a point that with
I remember that.
So she sent that on to me, and it's beautiful, and I really, really like it. So I do think that the quality of the palettes are there. However, would I get them based upon the shipping? Would I even be certain that it would arrive? Do I think it's worth it with the customer service, the lack of communication? No. And that kind of sucks, because I think for both of us, we love seeing brands succeed. Like you even said at the beginning, like, oh, you know, some of you might have had positive experiences. The thing is, we want people to have positive experiences. We don't want to sit here and be like, oh, everything's awful all the time. That's, we both get excited about, like, oh my God, look at how beautiful this palette is, and how great the service is. So like, we know how these things are possible because we've seen it with other brands. So it just kind of, it's quite kind of frustrating when we see that a brand isn't potentially hitting the level that they could to really just break out that little bit more. And I think they're going to do themselves a disservice with this constant FOMO, because there does just get a point where you're like, I'm not even going to bother checking anymore, because I'm never going to get this.
Yeah. And it was funny, until this incident, I didn't really kind of look into other incidents with them, but there is a history of this. This is just not me not being able to get, you know, for almost 4 years, not being able to get something from them. But I mean, if I'm looking back at, you know, at their, you know, previous releases, so the Feral palette. So again, they had 2 neutral shades in there, and then the consensus was, why are these 2 shades in here? You should have popped it out. And they were like, all right, we're going to do this for you. And we're thinking, and everybody's saying, wow, this is great. You know, we're going to get these 2 free shadows, but oh, you got to pay for shipping. It was still $26 US to ship 2 little pans, which Angelica Nyquist had called out. And then she was saying too, she's like, why would I pay this to get two shadows? Because you decided to do this, which is great. But if you're going to send these things out and for free, you might as well, they just fit in an envelope, right? Send them out. And they were like, well, you could buy another palette. We'll hold them for you. And it's like, so I need to spend another $35 so I can get these true free shadows to make still too expensive shipping. And then they can't even use the indie one, Shroud Cosmetics. It's expensive. It's $16, but that's still $10 cheaper. Juvia's Place has always been cheap, or they have it, spend X amount of dollars and get free. Like, why can't they do something like that? Like, if other small indie brands can do it, why can't they? Why is it $26 to ship? Right?
And I mean, we can see, even like, I've had issues with the amount that I spent on shipping, and it didn't update in tracking. I don't know where it is, whatever happened to it. I can only assume some fabulous courier driver is having a wonderful time and is currently painted to the heavens. But it's a lot of money for a service that doesn't work completely.
Oh, definitely. And then now, what was that one YouTuber who got 2 damaged shadows in the mail, and they offered her, what was it, $8 back, because the palette is still usable. Yes, it's come damaged and we delivered it to you damaged, but you can still use it. Like, sure, but
Can I juxtapose this against a very recent experience that I had with Cult Beauty, right? I had like a lapse in willpower, which happens to me frequently. And the Natasha Denona Triochrome palette was on sale for €95, which is still a lot of money, but considerably less than what it usually is. So I broke and I bought it. And it arrived and one of the shades was slightly shattered. I mean, slightly, it wasn't that bad, but I'm weird and I'm like, oh no, it's not fully perfect. So, and I emailed them with a picture of it saying, this is the story, what'll I do? And they said, don't worry, we are sending you out a replacement. Right. You can keep that one. You do not have to return it. Do whatever you want with it. I'm just juxtaposing that against these two. Like, it is entirely possible to do these things.
Oh, totally. I had that same experience with W7. I was so excited to get that Carnival dupe because, again, didn't want to spend a fortune to get the original from the UK. So I ordered it from the US and I came and the shimmer shade was broken, took pictures, that it wasn't really packed very well. So it was definitely an additional thing. But same thing too. It's like, did you want a new one? We can send you out a new one. Did you want us to refund it? What did you want? And I says, well, I don't want you to have to ship another one out and then take the chance of being damaged. If you want to refund it, that's great. And they're like, yep, just ignore the ship return labels, just keep it, no problem. So like, and that's a brand where it's even cheap, right? Like, so you can see a high-end retailer and a low-end retailer, they both can do this. Why can't that brand? Why can't, they have insurance, like and they were smashed, like that photo, I'll try and remember to insert it. It was smashed, like those, yes, fine, usable, but after I paid $100 whatever, that would be unacceptable for that to arrive like that. For that, it should be, come floating to you on clouds for that amount of money, right?
I mean, I also had an experience maybe a year and a half ago with Copacetic Cosmetics, where I had a couple of things arrive shattered. And again, small indie brand. She was fabulous, super professional, and she sorted out replacements ASAP.
Yeah, see, so again, so if all these small indie brands can do it, then you can do it too. It sucks you want to ship out your product and have it come to people and people to love it, but if something happens, that's part of business. You have to fix it. You have to deal with it. That's customer service, right? And anybody who's worked in customer service knows that's what you have to do, right? So yeah, so that definitely left a bad taste in my mouth for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's other brands that have expensive shipping as well. Lethal Cosmetics in Germany is crazy shipping, but that's the same thing too. You get immaculately wrapped products, beautiful products, good customer service. There's no issues. And they're also, I think, just run by 2 friends that run it. So again, small brand, they can do it. So Menagerie should be able to. I mean, their products are beautiful. The packaging is beautiful. I love that they donate money to different wildlife charities. That's near and dear to my heart. I would assume same with you, is we're both pet parents, right? Animal lovers, so that's wonderful, and that they're cruelty free. So there are some positives to the brand, but you're paying through your teeth. Bad customer service, and makeup shouldn't be stressful. You shouldn't be having an anxiety attack to buy a palette. like the rush already to try to be one of those people on release day to get that purchase is traumatic enough. Never mind the negativity that came with it afterwards. So no, they've got a history of being called out. Same thing too, they also had issues with the photos being from other photographers. So there was that too. They had to end up paying a photographer because their artist copied work and used it for their product. So it's definitely a brand that I don't know I would want to support anymore. I think they're on my no-fly list.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right, so going on to other dramas. So another one that I'm going to add to our little list here is Shroud Cosmetics. And then they used to be Strobe Cosmetics before that. And I can't find an exact date of when they started, but it looks like the rebranding was 2019. So they had definitely been open, I think 10 or 11 years before that. And they're also California, so a little bit farther away than Washington to me. And they're also cruelty-free, vegan, and had a collab with Miss Butte Bean. So did you end up getting that palette?
I did, because I have problems. I did actually get it. Look, if anyone has been following all of that, they'll know that essentially what kind of happened was they had a pre-order and people ran for that, and that was super successful. And then they went, let's extend the pre-order, and they kind of opened it up to some more. Now, more power to them, but the problem was they didn't have the resources to really keep up with that. They kind of had bigger eyes than their stomach, was what essentially happened there. Now, for me, I didn't actually hit that first pre-order. I wasn't one of the ones that got in on the first bit.
Yeah.
I got in when they decided to re-extend it, because my lovely friend Lucy was actually over visiting me at the time, and I was dropping her to the airport, and that was why I missed the pre-order. And then I got super excited because then they were like, we're extending it and opening it up a little bit further. So then I did actually get in on that. Now, it took months. I mean, I ordered in September of 2020, and I don't think I got it until like January or February of 2021.
Yeah, because I know some people they waited 8 months. So I ended up getting the palette as well, but I missed out that first one too. I was on there and like 2 minutes later sold out. I'm like, what the hell? And then they did that pre-order, but then I was reading what people were saying, and they were saying that it could take 5 months, 6 months till you can get the palette. So I was like, no, I can't, tie up my cash for that long without knowing if this is something that's going to happen. Because I didn't know this brand before this. I just love everything Halloween. So I actually didn't even know Butte Bean that well. I started watching her because of this collab, because again, Halloween, need to have this. So I waited until they said that this next pre-order is stuff we have in stock. So there's no waiting. You order, you pay for it, you get it. So then I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to commit. And yeah, ordered it, and they shipped it out within a few days, and it came a few days later. So yeah, so with that, I'm pretty happy with that. I haven't used it yet because I just got it, but I did read a lot of stuff on Reddit. So it looks like they did take the criticism to heart when they were saying they only had 2 machines or 1 pressing machine, and it was going to take all these months to do it, and they didn't expect to have that many, and they didn't have that many for Butte Bean. They didn't have a number, so it's at least Shroud or Menagerie had a number, so at least you kind of knew how little your chances were. But they apparently took their pre-order money, bought machines, hired staff, hired customer service, and it took them a while. But they were constantly emailing. Like I didn't even do the second pre-order, and I was getting emails with the numbers and people telling me. So I was watching this really closely. So I mean, that one started out kind of bad, but they really kind of, what Menagerie should have done, they should have taken all that money that they, in pre-buy, they're going to get a lot of money, right? Take that money, buy an extra machine or something to get them pressed, buy that extra staff to help you run that one machine if that's all you can afford, or get customer service to let people know that you're having an issue. That's the way to do it. That's the way.
I was personally really, really impressed with how they actually handled it. Yes, it didn't start out the best because they kind of overestimated their ability in the beginning. But the fact that they continued to communicate to the customer, I was getting weekly updates of saying, we're on orders X through Y, so these will be shipped out. And you knew what your number was.
Yep.
So you could actually pretty much determine when you were going to get yours. And that open line of communication was really, really helpful. We talked about how Menagerie doesn't have an open line of communication unless you go via social media. However, what we had with Shroud was they were actually instigating communication with their customers on this. So they were kind of nipping a lot of the issues in the bud. And I think they've actually bounced back from this quite well. They dealt with it quite well. And I think this isn't an issue that we're going to see from them again. Like you said, they've taken that revenue and they have used it to invest in their company to ensure that they're not going to have something like this again. I do think that in the beginning, they should have done their due diligence and kind of determined, okay, what are the numbers that we're looking at here? Like, what they should have done some sort of like marketing research of like, how many people do we think are going to do this? I also think Menagerie didn't do that very well in that they were only coming out with, I think it was 500 units. They totally could have come out with 5,000 and people would have.
Totally. They could have done a poll on Instagram. You do polls all the time. You just go on it and you click, yes, I love it. No, I hate it. Right? Same thing. Would you buy, here's the color story. Would you buy this? Yes, hell yes, hell yes, hell yes. Then you're going to know, okay, out of 10,000 people polled, 9,000 want it. Okay, 3,000 overall is not going to cover this release.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think this is an issue that we see with a lot of brands, not just indie brands, but brands in general in makeup, is a lack of marketing research and really understanding what the consumer is wanting. So sometimes they kind of think that we want something that we don't, and then other times they just kind of underestimate our want, our need for certain things. I think this is something that we saw with both Shroud and with Menagerie, but the way in which it was handled was so different.
Night and day.
And I do think that Shroud really sort of brought themselves back quite a bit, and I don't see much negativity towards them now, because they really did hold their hands up and say, yeah, okay, we kind of didn't approach this correctly. They took accountability, and I think particularly now we are so aware of the whole issue of accountability, and when somebody does say, yeah, I did do something wrong, however, I am doing my best to rectify that, I think a lot of people respect that. And we're not saying, oh my gosh, you have to do everything perfectly all the time. No, because humans are humans. But to understand when you have done something that maybe isn't the best and to try and rectify that, I think the everyday consumer respects that and are more likely to sign on to something like that. I know that for me, I have a lot more respect for them, and I know that I can trust them. If I go and buy something with them again, I know that I will get that communication and they will keep in contact with me, and I don't have to worry about that. So weirdly, I think it has ended up in solidifying a lot of trust with consumers by enhancing the communication and keeping those lines open.
And that's what most people want, right? As long as you know what's happening, and and you say, this is what's happened, the machines broke down, or we're having issues keeping up, we need to hire people, and this is what we're doing, people know, and then they feel part of the process if they know what's going on. But to have to go to any type of social media to call people out, and it doesn't even have to be Menagerie. I've had that with, my phone company, and sometimes you have to go to Twitter to be like, why are you not helping me? And as soon as it's social media, and I think that's a trend that really needs to go away, is that you have that, basically having to go at people on social media to get what you deserve, which is your product that you've paid for, is, that shouldn't be the case. You should be able to call or email or whatever the process is and have them, okay, maybe like Pat McGrath, it takes 48 hours or 72 hours, but it says in the email it's going to take that long, but then they do respond. So, you know, that's a major brand that also has customer service issues, but they at least get to you at some point, right? Where with Menagerie, like I said, if I'm still waiting to find out about courier services, it's, you know, it's not happening.
Me too.
Right. So yeah, so I'm happy to keep Shroud on my list at the moment. So I think I'm good with that. So yeah, so no, they're good. And then the other thing is Chloe, the founder of Shroud, when she started her brand, she was 16. So, you know, the fact that she's probably 26 or 27 now, you know, like that she was able to go and turn this all around is pretty amazing. You know, that's really young. So I mean, there has been other little drama, like rumors that they didn't create their own shadows and stuff, and they've had to go and show video of them actually doing it. So there has been a little bit, but I think not enough that I wouldn't want to purchase from them again. I think it's pretty, you know, growing pains. So, all right. So here's another one we can have a little chat about is Glamlight. Oh, so that's a palette that I've not gotten yet. It is kind of on my radar because it is mighty pretty. So you own that palette, yes?
I don't.
No?
But I was at Mrs. A couple of days ago, and she did let me stick my big fingers into it. I swatched a lot of her palettes, not gonna lie, and now there's a couple of things on my list. It's a funny one because it's not a palette that necessarily appealed to me off the bat. I think I have a little bit of palette fatigue, if I'm 100% honest, because I see so much. I'm like, has to really, really hit me. I mean, I think the general thing that we look at here is I like seeing when people get collabs because it is essentially a recognition of their work. What was interesting with this is Glamlight have been around for a little while. They're about what, 2 or 3 years old, and I think this is the first collaboration that I know of from them. I could be wrong, but they went with Michaela, who is a TikToker. Now I'm old and I just kind of watch bits of TikTok, but I am a voyeur. I am not a participator. And I did find it really interesting that they decided to collaborate with somebody who was new, which is, in one way, it's really nice to see somebody like supporting like an up and coming person. However, I would have also liked to have seen them maybe collaborate with somebody who is, you know, given them a lot of support through the years. I know there was a lot of issues around Angelica Nyqvist and her ordering the palette with a friend. She did a little bit on a video on that, and it seems like they didn't quite handle it correctly. Some of the major issues around the whole Glamlight hasn't, I mean, it's an interesting one because there have been some people who have said that the quality of the shadows isn't fantastic. So there seems to be a sort of an inconsistency. And if you look through Reddit, good old Reddit, you can go down a rabbit hole. There have been some people who have said that one of the issues is that Michaela, again, she's found fame quite quickly, that she has been quite, I don't want to say aggressive, but negative towards people who have given negative feedback to the palette. Now, that is something that does not sit right with me, because I've had that happen to me. So I'm like, it's exactly what you said at the beginning. It is makeup. It washes off. It is not that deep. We do not have to get angry or defensive about it. Everyone has different preferences. You know, like this color story of this palette isn't something for me, but I know that other people absolutely lost their minds over it, and that's totally fine. Makeup is always going to be subjective. You do not have to attack people over them not liking something. That means that there's more makeup for the rest of us. It's not a big deal. But I thought, I did think it was just a bit of her kind of coming out like that. And again, it comes back to my previous point of kind of saying, I kind of wish they had gone with somebody who is a little bit more established, because Michaela has only been around for like about a year. So that means that she is quite new and we don't really know her background.
Exactly.
Um, so it would have been really nice for them to go with somebody. I mean, I will say Angelica Nickfist, because she has been kind of a proponent of them for quite some time. So, but I know she also had her like collaboration with Kaleidos, and I
Yeah,
think,
no, Annette's a big fan as well. And
yeah,
yeah, I see a lot of people that like Limelight a lot.
yeah. So I would have liked to have seen somebody quite established that we've known in the community for a while, to get this to be almost a recognition of their work, rather than this person has 1 million subscribers on TikTok.
Yeah, and that seems to be another trend that I'm seeing a lot. That's why I was really excited when Juvia's Place did their collabs with Fumi, who I love. And she is like, especially before when she got the first collab, I think she was maybe at, I don't even think 50,000 subscribers. And I remember a lot of people going, "Oh my gosh, why are you going with her? Like she's not, XYZ with 100 million people." So I really like the fact that they were supporting somebody that, like me, loves their products, buys all their products, showcases them on their channel, is a huge fan, but also doesn't have 100 million, or the TikTok fame, which is I don't understand the TikTok fame. I don't get it at all. Yeah, I'm definitely too old for that one as well. But yeah, makeup. If I can understand it's your baby, like Angelica always puts on her top lists, my collab, that's my favorite, right? And that's great. It's your baby. And I can understand if you see those posts, I can understand you shutting off your computer and going, blah, 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 blah. How dare they, la, 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 la. But then when you go to respond, you'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, la la la. What can I do to make it better? What suggestion can I give to make, to hopefully make this work for you? Have you tried this technique? Have you tried that? What is your problem? There's ways to go about it and how you respond to people, but that going on an attack and saying you don't know how to use makeup or you're bad at makeup. It's, first of all, even if they are, like, I'm not the greatest at makeup either. I just happen to love makeup, but there's a difference between giving, a good supportive comment than taking somebody who was a fan, who spent money on your product because they like you, and then taking them down because you're upset that one person out of 50 million people, or how many ever many people bought this product, didn't like it, right? The 1% out of yeah. So I'm curious to see how that's going to affect Glamlight, if or what Michaela is going to do to kind of rectify, her
Yeah, it does just
bad
seem
attitude.
yeah, it does just seem quite interesting that they kind of tied themselves to her quite early on. And I do notice there seems to be a changing tide of public opinion towards Michaela, going far more negative. Now, personally, I don't know enough about her. I'm not going to weigh in,
Yeah.
but I kind of think like maybe it wasn't the best decision for them, because they tied themselves so closely with her, and now she's getting a lot of flack based upon some comments she's made, some kind of things that she's done. And because they're so indelibly linked now, literally they have a palette that has her name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Could this impact them going forward?
Yeah. I guess that's the kind of the cost for dealing with somebody that's so young and so new to fame. I mean, there are people that are older that can't deal with all the sudden stardom. I can't imagine. I don't know how old she is, but I can't imagine she's older than 20 or 21 tops to deal with all that and then get a collab, right? Like, do they never have people to help people that are new to this? This is how you react with the general public, right? This is how you're supposed to behave. This is the front that you put up. You get stressed out, I get it, but you can put on that face and then get upset about it later, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes down to professionalism.
Yeah.
Like, I've had people who haven't loved my research or my papers and have kind of gone, oh, there's a thing here, or there's a thing there. But I'd never go off and attack them online because they didn't like my work. I'm just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right. That's you. Other people like it. That's great.
Yeah.
So if we want to look at some more successful collabs, Kaleidos has done well. So talking about Angelica Nyquist, that was a palette that the makeup community was all about.
I will say, and I want to say one negative thing about that. I think they made a massive, massive error by making that limited edition.
Oh,
I think
indeed.
that is easily one of the best palettes that they have ever come out with. And I think they made a massive mistake in having it as essentially a one-off item. I
Yeah,
love it.
I still have FOMO for the very first palette that I missed out that they have. Like yeah. I mean, I get if I think there's a couple shades in there that are very hard for them to recreate, then maybe say, okay, we can't do it exactly like 100% like this, but we can do it 98% like this. So why don't we repackage it? Put it in a thinner, smaller case, and then put all those colors and then find whatever the one or two that they can't get the same one for, find something similar, a similar color story or whatever, and then re-release it. At least that way, people who missed out can still get a chance at having that similar color story. That's why I always think Melt misses out for not re-releasing their Day of the Dead series that they did, those two. Like if they would put it out now, they would sell so much. People are still desperate for this. So yeah, no, they definitely, I agree with that being a mistake, because what happens when I use it up? I'm done. So it makes you scared
I'm
to use
afraid
your
to use
palette,
it
right?
as a
Yeah.
result. I'm
Yeah.
afraid. I'm like, no, I
Mhm.
can't, because some of those shimmers are like,
Yeah.
they're special and I love them and I would smear my entire body in it. But if I did that, then I would have hit pan. So
Yes, very quickly. But yeah, no, they were really good. Their shipping is decent. They also do, when you spend X amount, you get free shipping. They have, if you get charged duty, you just send them, the copy of the receipt. They pay you back. Like they're very, very good. I mean, I've been lucky so far, knock on wood, being in Canada, that I've managed to get. I mean, I had a little bit of a hiccup with their last release, but not enough that it soured me on them. Like, I think they've done really well. And then Angelica Nyquist being so popular, I think they did a decent amount the first run. And when they did their second and third run on it, they had good quantities. So I would say in this case, the majority of the people that were desperate for it, I would think at least they got their hands on it, right? I mean, people who find out about it later, I'm sad for them. But so that was successful. Let's see, Sydney Grace always seems to be very successful with hers. I've not tried any, but I did look at like the Mel Thompson one, and then that new one that she had out with
Temptalia.
Yeah, Temptalia, right? Yeah, so those look really nice too.
Yeah. I've got some Sydney Grace products, and I will say the quality is definitely there. And this is just an unproblematic brand. Like I've never seen anyone have an issue with them or give out to them. They have some amazing Christmas and July sales. Like they had some fantastic offers there a couple of weeks ago, you know. Yeah, I mean they know how to do their collaborations. They go off without a hitch. I've never heard anything of people not getting their orders. I think one of the amazing things they did with Temptalia was having versions of eyeshadow palettes for lighter skin and for darker skin. So they really took that into mind, and I don't see many brands doing that. So I think that was a real strength of that particular collaboration,
I
was
think
them
they do that with
understanding.
most of it. But I think they do that with most of their big releases. They always
Do.
have a lighter and a darker, or light, medium, and dark. Because I know Mel Thompson usually gets all of them anyways. So it's interesting to see. And I think that's really good. And I think, like this is just through Mel Thompson's how I heard about them. But yeah, I couldn't, digging around, I couldn't find nothing. There's nothing. So that's definitely a brand that I wouldn't mind supporting sometime in the future as well. And then another one is the Birdie Revival with Sigma. That same thing too. I guess it's the second collab that's been done.
Yeah, so what happened there was they came out with a palette back in 2019, I believe. It was limited edition. It was very, very popular. A lot of people kept asking for it, and they decided that they would bring back the palette, just sort of repackage it and bring out some brushes along with it. and people are quite happy with it. Yeah, I mean, again, I like Sigma. Like, I don't have any issues. There's a lot of stuff that I've heard about their eyeshadow palettes that I think they're one of those ones that are underrated and they don't receive the hype, because any reviews that I have seen of things like the Enchanted Garden palette, etc., I'm like, I kind of want them, but they're not as readily available for me here. And I am at that point where I have such a big collection that I'm like, unless I can use it on my channel for a reason, there's no point in me getting it. So
Yeah.
that's a ridiculous point of life to be at, but there you go. I do think they seem to do things quite well. I mean, we've noticed as well, they do collaborations with like the LGBT community come Pride Month, and they actually do, from what I remember, they gave like 50% of their proceeds of their brush sets, etc., during Pride Month to LGBTQ foundations, which is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we never really hear much in terms of like drama around Sigma. Again, they're quite unproblematic. They seem to do really good collaborations. Anyone that has done collabs with them seem to be quite happy with them and how they're treated. So again, that's something we always have to remember, is how are the collaborators actually being treated. We've seen some poor instances in the past, such as Too Faced and Nikki Tutorials and the way that she was treated. So I think also when you see people coming back and revisiting a collab like Birdie did, I think that's an additional thing that lets you know this is a brand that treats people well. If you see people coming back and doing another collab with them, I think that's quite a positive sign.
Yeah, and then again, go on to our next subject, that brings up Ofra. You know, when you look there, same thing too, like, you know, Samantha March, how many collabs has she done with them? 2, 3 different ones. So many other creators have done, you know, collabs with them. So they're apparently amazing people. They did have my favorite of all time highlighters, which, you know, now I feel bad that I have it to do to trauma. It's great products, but
I have one right here next to me. It's the Mother Earth one.
Yeah, I have that one too. Yeah.
Love them. I'm in a similar boat to you. I found the whole thing so upsetting because the products are excellent. And I was so excited when Samantha March got her collabs with them, because I've been a big fan of Samantha. I don't think she gets anywhere near the recognition that she deserves. She works very, very hard. I loved that her collabs reflected her passion. You know, she had products that were called like Chicklet, and a lot of the themes were things like progression and self-improvement, because that's a lot of what she does even on her podcasts. So seeing that, I was like, oh my God, that's great. And from what we could see, she was being treated quite well, as were other people who had done collabs. We know that the likes of Steph Toms, she held out for a long time to do a collab, and she waited until she got Ofra, because in her eyes, Ofra had been, up until that point, very unproblematic. That's the sad thing. They had been. We had all seen, you know, Nikki Tutorials had positive collabs with them in the past. You know, she again came back to them and did more collabs with them. And this is a woman who has been burnt by collabs in the past.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then all the small influencers that they do those special every season where they pick 3 or 4 different small influencers and they get to pick their favorite whatever and get it released. Like, they seemed like the dream to be with, right?
They really did. If you had said a year ago, I'd have been like, yeah, Ofra, they're fantastic. I own so much of their stuff. And I feel so bad because they have done collabs well. I don't think we can actually say anything in terms of the quality of the items. They're top notch. The aesthetic is there. They are always in line with who they're collaborating with. You don't look at the stuff and kind of go, God, I wouldn't have thought that for the XYZ. You look at Samantha March's collection. She came out with like a purple eyeshadow palette, which, by the way, I ended up buying and I had planned on doing a video, but kind of can't now, So that was upsetting, but that made sense because she talks all the time about how she loves purple eyeshadow on her because she's those beautiful green eyes and it really makes them pop.
Yeah.
So like the collaborations always seemed very, very mindful and very in line with the people that they were collaborating with. But unfortunately, we then learned stuff about the people behind the brand.
Yeah.
And I just feel very bad for the people that they collabed with, the likes of Samantha March, Steph Toms, that they've worked so hard to have such a positive influence on the community. Again, you know, I talk about Samantha March. Her whole thing is around community and inclusivity and
Yeah.
having people together. And then for her to find out that this brand that she had partnered with and collaborated with were the antithesis of that, it is very much a slap in the face. That it was almost like a duplicity, that on the one hand Oprah were kind of going, hey, yeah, we're all about community and inclusion, blah blah blah, but then behind the scenes
Yeah.
were had a completely different political agenda, literally had a different political agenda.
Yeah.
So it's upsetting on so many fronts for a lot of people. And I think a lot of the beauty community have landed on the side of just feeling really bad for all those who had collaborated, because it very much dampens their success. And I know that, again, like for the likes of Steph Toms, it was very clear she could have had lots of collaborations by now. She could have, and I know she would have been approached by many people to have collaborations, but she held out because she wanted to make sure that they were unproblematic brands, or a brand that supported her ethos. And I feel so bad for those collaborators, because they were deceived, let's be real.
Oh,
they
for
were
sure. Yeah.
And just having that level of duplicity and being essentially manipulated to have a deal with a brand that you wouldn't have had a deal with otherwise.
Yeah.
It just rubs me up the wrong way. So it is like you were saying, it's a collaboration that was done well, but it's by, unfortunately, a now problematic brand.
Yeah, and I even saw like people try to get back at Samantha March and stuff too. I saw the negative comments that, oh, she wasn't fast enough. And it's like, well, she put her heart and soul into this, you know, like you'd have to give her time to be like, how do I reconcile these people that I've met? You know, and she finally came out and she says they're always so kind when they meet her. And it's just such a, you know, positive thing to do this. And then you just find out that, you know, Trump supporters, et cetera, you know, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and
He's my favorite one.
This is the issue. It's that whole social media thing of like, you must respond immediately.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a lot of emotions going on there. For her, she's a smaller, I mean, not small like us, but like a smaller
Yeah.
YouTube creator. And for her, getting those deals was like a big, big thing. And it was such an achievement for her. And to suddenly almost have that negated and say, okay, this is what's happening. There's a lot of emotions going on. It's very bittersweet. Like, you can't expect somebody to just have a knee-jerk reaction. And actually, I think she was right to take her time and try and kind of figure things out, rather than go straight on the offense or the defense and go, oh, well, actually, blah, blah, blah. She waited until she had all of the information together.
Which is smart, because how many YouTubers have you seen where they rush out that apology or whatever, and then they're, you know, they're slammed because they didn't think it through. They thought, okay, I better get out there and do it really fast. But they didn't think it through. They didn't digest it. They didn't see what the impact was going to be for them, for that brand, what the whole global thing was going to be. So I think I agree, it was very smart of her to wait, take the time, get the info, and then, you know, break ties, make the statement. But that had to have been a hard decision to kind of make, right? Because you had such a good relationship with these people. So,
and her whole thing is positivity and, you know, relationships and community. So for her, that was a big thing. You know, to sever those ties. That's not something she would have done lightly or like at the drop of a hat, because I think she's the sort, again, reading in that she would want to make sure, okay, if I am going to sever things, I need to be certain
Yeah,
that this is 100% the case, that it isn't just a he said, she said. I
exactly.
think it was really being kind of like, no, if I'm doing this, there is no going back. So I need to be 100% certain on this. And I totally respect her for that. Like I think she's a very talented creator, and I think a lot of what she stands for is really, really positive. And I think that's part of why I get so annoyed about all of
Mhm.
this, is
Yeah,
she's one of those people that you're like, that shouldn't have happened to her. Also shouldn't have happened to Steph Toms, etc.
yeah,
But like,
yeah,
I think I get particularly annoyed with Samantha Mar, like
yeah.
on behalf of Samantha Mar.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, totally. Especially
But
after the year she's been having already, right? So, she's had so much life upheaval, and then now, that kind of relationship falling apart. But on a plus, she now has her little release, her little brand that came out. So that's really exciting. So, and it's not makeup. So that's
but
good.
very much in line
Yeah,
again with her, and it
yes.
linking in with her writing, and again that whole thing around positivity and planning and self-improvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
No,
not
that's
like it
fantastic.
came out of left field either. It was like, okay, we thought it was going to be makeup and then it was this, and we were all kind of like, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Because at first when she started talking, I was just like, what? What? And it's like, oh yeah, she's an author, right? Her tattoos are about, being a writer. So it's, yeah. So I know it totally made sense for her. Just like Jackie Ina's candles made sense for her. She was always burning them on, in her channel in the background. That's kind of her thing. And it's nice to see because, as you mentioned, you're getting palette fatigue. I'm like trying to do this month, no makeup whatsoever. Actually went into a Sephora and bought no makeup. Like, I'm proud of myself. So, to try and, yeah, because I love makeup, but you get to that point where it's just too much and, yeah, just hard to deal with. So it's nice to see YouTubers or makeup people release something that isn't makeup. So yeah, no, that's pretty good. Yeah, I think we've covered the most of the things we wanted to be petty about, I believe. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, no, this is great for our very first episode of the Petty Betties. And yeah, I think we were very nice. we yeah, we had reasons to be upset for things that we are, or upset for other people. But hopefully, Menagerie can maybe do something to fix it. Again, who you want small brands to make it, like our favorite brand, Lois Cosmetics. She's like the benchmark for, what I think is an amazing indie brand that puts out
She's ruined us. She's
products.
completely ruined us for every other brand. Because I just looked at what other brands do and I go, Lois would do it better.
Yeah,
Like,
no, everything is compared. Brushes are compared to her brushes. Eyeshadows are compared to her eyeshadows. Glitter toppers to her glitter toppers, customer service, the shipping, how she responds to, like she had a little bit of drama with her palette, she didn't know it was going to go that crazy, saying that literally 2 weeks before the launch, every single YouTuber's talking about it. Nobody was expecting it, but she dealt with it with grace and got products out to people. And now people can be just like us, addicted to Lois Cosmetics.
that is the take
Yeah.
home, really. But I mean, I think one of the things that we would really want to say in terms of this is we're not advocating for canceling or anything
Yeah.
like that. We are very much for improvement, self-improvement, etc. We never want to see anybody fail at all. We don't want to see, a brand get shut down or whatever. We actually want to see people improving. We want to get to a point where there isn't anything negative to have to say
Mhm.
other than maybe,
No, exactly.
oh, they didn't have the exact shade of green I wanted. Like, like we want to get it to a point where, people can come back. Like that's the thing. Human beings do make mistakes. That's the thing. We're
Yep.
talking about companies that are run by human beings. They are going to make mistakes. We're not saying that people have to be perfect, but we want to see growth. and some
Yeah.
sort of change.
Accountability. Yep. Cancel
That's all we
culture is not about me. Accountability is what I'm for. Yes, exactly. So on that note, I think we can end the episode here. I think this was a great first episode. Yes, thanks for joining me and being my partner in crime. All right, so that is, I think, us for today, and hope you like it. And if you'd like to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe even click that notification bell, would be greatly appreciated. And then wait to see what we have in store next month.
Bye.
All right.